So if you guys are following along on Friday's videos, which I hope you are, you might remember while we're working on this little guy over here, we mentioned that way back in the day, we had a problem with torques, or actually, a lack thereof. And I mentioned that we'll probably talk about that in an upcoming tech tip. And guys, this is it. So that's what we're going to talk about on this week's Tuesday morning tech tip from Pugliese Speed Shop.
So if you could tell by the title card there, it's obviously not Tuesday morning like he's saying in the video. That's mainly because I had something to do over the weekend and went up to Philadelphia with Ma, and we went to WrestleMania like the entire weekend. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. We had the entire thing with, SmackDown, the actual WrestleMania nights, and Raw with WWE. And it was a blast. I'll throw up like pictures or like some sort of video or something. Now, back to your regularly scheduled Wednesday morning tech tip.
Did I actually just say that? This little guy right here? It's like calling a bald guy curly, Anyway, we were talking about when I was working on this guy. We had the hood up, we were going through some stuff on the engine, nothing crazy, just tune-up stuff and whatnot. And I noticed that the spark plugs were a little bit loose, in my opinion, right? And I said I had a problem with that in the past. And usually when it comes to that kind of stuff, guys, it should only take one time for you to realize this and change your habits and make sure it's not a problem again. In the case of the wheels falling off, it took me two. That's okay. We still learn. For neither one were my fault, for the record. All right. But the spark plug thing was, all right. And, we had a plug fly out of a car. Obviously, it damaged the hell out of the head. It actually damaged the hood and the battery at the same time. So, and guys, it was almost a brand new car. It was only a couple years old at that point, which is brand new for me, guys, if it's, what I'm saying? So yeah, that happened. And of course, it's always at the most inopportune times, and which caused more problems. And, that just equals more money being spent. So nothing you want to do, right? So I learned immediately, because that time I learned on the first try. And we're going to sit down because I don't want to get dizzy walking around. We'll talk about it, and I'll tell you how I screwed up, how you can avoid it, and, how I'm going to avoid it. And I have been successfully for about 20 years now. It's actually over 20 years, guys. So I'm going to tell you a little story, all right? As I've said a million times, growing up, we always had like older cars. And of course, when I got my license, my first car was a 77 Trans Am. And I was born in 77, so you can do the math and figure out how old I was when I had this car and how old this car was. Pretty easy to kind of, right? And then I had a couple other older vehicles until I joined the Navy. And then, because my father was like the best car salesman on the planet, I bought a 1996 Dodge Neon. Yes, I did. It happened. It happened. There it is. It's out there. The internet knows. All right. I bought it in December of 95, and he sold me on the warranty, guys. I don't know what it was. But either way, that's another story. I bought the car. We had it shipped out to California after I got off deployment in 96. And guys, from right there, this car was a pain in the ass because during the shipping, the car above it leaked brake fluid on the hood, and you guys know that's corrosive. Tore that up. We got that fixed. It was never right, but it was a Neon, so who cares? So then I did put a bunch of miles on the car. You're in California, everything's on the highway. Actually, I was dating Megan at the time, and she was like an hour and a half north, so I was up and down the coast all day, right? And then, well, that's when cars started to change a little bit, guys, right? There's a lot more aluminum stuff put in things. There was longer, intervals between like maintenances and all that. But me still being like the old school guy, I changed the oil every 3,000 miles. Back in the day, this is how you did it, right? Every 3,000 miles, you changed oil. 25,000, you did spark plugs, right? And that's just, you had these, you had your timing belt, had all that kind of stuff had to be done. Some of these things are still true, guys, so don't think you don't got to change your timing belt or anything like that. But the cars from the 90s on, really, you weren't changing spark plugs at 25,000 miles. Like Megan's Camry, it says do it at 120, My Tundra's the same way. And neither one of them have missed a beat, man, so I'm thinking there's some truth to that. I'm following what Toyota says. I didn't follow what Dodge said. And that could be, no, we'll leave the Mopar comments aside. But I was going on deployment in 98 again. By this time, me and Megan are married. We got a little apartment, the whole little thing. And so I taught her how to drive stick the night before I left, because this car was a 5-speed. It wasn't planned. We rolled early. But she figured it out. She's been great ever since. But I did a bunch of maintenance on this car because I knew I was leaving. And part of it, I put new plugs in it. Cool. Now, if you guys have ever seen, especially when I'm working with Kevin, he's worried about me over-torquing things. Because, well, I do that. That's why. So this has been a problem my whole life. So when I was a kid and we're working on cars, my dad would always be like, hey, what are you doing? Don't gorilla grip that thing in there. Knock it off. Specifically with spark plug. You're gonna strip it, you can do whatever. So I'd put it in there and put a little, and that was that. And never had a problem, right? So I'm working on this Neon, and I do a tune-up. Throw plugs in it, put this, and I'm calling it good, right? So, seemed to be fine. I'm on deployment. I pull into Hong Kong about like 4.5, 5 months later, and I get an email from Megan right before we pulled in. I think I blew the motor in the car last night. What? So I go and I call her, and we spend about $1 a minute. Yeah, thanks AT&T. To discuss this problem, and she was coming home, and loud bang, car lost all sorts of power. She got to the side of the road. You see, I'm calling a tow truck towards the Dodge dealer. It was under warranty. Well, should have been. And that's that. What had happened was one of the spark plugs I put in shot out of the head, dented the hood, cracked the battery, and when it came out, it took all the threads out of the head with it, aluminum heads. So, luckily, my dad was at a Chrysler dealer at the time. He was able to kind of work it over a little bit for us. It wasn't covered under warranty because I forget what kind of plugs I put in it, but it wasn't the factory Mopar ones. So because I touched it, voided the warranty. Didn't have an awful lot of money back then, so like $700 or $800 was a grip, I still think $700 or $800 is kind of a grip of money, but even more so back then at the age I was and the income we had, right? So we ended up they fixed it. They put helicoiled it, and they didn't do a great job, guys. I'll be honest with you, but it worked, right? And from that point forward, actually, anytime I changed the plugs, which I probably should have just stopped changing the plugs. I don't know why I was always doing this, but the helicoil would come out on that freaking thing every time, and I had to buy an insert, and I'd do this, and it was a whole thing. So I caused myself nothing but problems for two reasons. Number one, I was doing maintenance that wasn't required. If I would have just read along in the owner's manual, I think they were supposed to be changed at like 100,000 as well. Fun fact, the motor blew on that thing at 87,000, and I had one payment left. Oh. But, so that would have been like, that would have been fine. I probably could have gone the life of that motor without ever doing a tune-up and not cause myself that, that inconvenience. And plus, I'm on deployment. It was our only vehicle. Megan's, now she's taking the trolley to work and all that kind of, so it wasn't great news for anybody. But, so there was all that. And then let's say even I wanted to do that, had I followed the factory specs and torqued it, I think it was like 25 foot-pounds or 20 or 15, whatever it was. Don't quote me, guys. I don't know. But if I would have just torqued it to the spec, I probably would have been fine. If I'd have put the stock plug back in, I definitely would have been fine. All sorts of things, right? Which all just leads back to not following, we call it word tech data, right? Not following the book that the guy that engineered this plane. See, right away I go to that. This car told us to follow. So doing maintenance I didn't have to do. That's what it is. Some people like to over-maintain stuff, and that's better than neglecting it, provided you're doing it right. So since then, guys, anytime, especially spark plugs, I torque them, right? Make sure I got the right spec, and I torque it to spec. Too much, you strip it. Not enough, it flies out and costs you $800 that you don't have. Take this advice for what you want, but I'm going to torque these spark plugs. That's why, you guys.